I'm a psychology student, right? So I'm in a psychology class. And in my class, I can get extra credit by being a subject in a graduate's, study. So I participated as a subject in a study. I walk in, right, and I'm thinking like I'm gonna own this study. I'm gonna do everything right. I'm gonna do it exactly the way they want me to. And of course, I have no idea what I was gonna be doing, or how I was gonna be doing it, or like what they were even looking for. But I was still like, I was very confident in myself. The guy who's running it, sits me down and he places this like weird square thing in front of me, and it's got a red frog and a bunch of green frogs, and they're like have to hop them over each other so that the red one is the only one left. And so he's explaining this to me, and I'm looking at it, and I figure it out while he's explaining it to me. And then he's like, "All right, so read the directions, and then when you're ready, press the timer." And I was like, "Oh, I finished it already. I know how to do it." So I press the timer, and I'm just like, "Let's wait like 20 seconds. That sounds good, right?" So I like wait, just kind of sitting there, and then 20 seconds goes by, and then I solve it, and I stop the timer, and I write it down, and I'm like, yeah, figured that out really fast. I'm doing so well at this study. He brings the next part of the study, and it says I have a 50-ounce beaker filled with water, a 7-ounce beaker, an 8-ounce beaker, and a 100-ounce beaker, and I have to get 37 ounces into the 100-ounce beaker. So I'm like, okay, this is may take me a little while, but I'm gonna figure it out. And I did a bunch of math. I was like 50 plus 8 minus 7 minus 7 plus 8, doing all sorts of fun stuff. And I get to 37, and I'm like, awesome. And then I go to write it down and like explain which beaker I poured into the other beaker. And I start, and I'm like, oh, wait, what? And I'm trying to figure out my math and which beaker is which and how did I get the thing, and then the buzzer goes beep, and I'm like, oh no. And the guy comes in, he's like, here, can I have your thing? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, where is your answer? And I'm like, I didn't finish it. And he brings in the next problem, and it's all about these three guys. Have your old man, your middle-aged man, and your young man. And the old man has a bad curse, an awful curse, and a terrible curse on him, and you have to get them all onto the young man. So I'm like, okay, this is similar to something I've done before. And so, I do it, and I write out my little paragraph, and I press the buzzer, and I've got like 2 minutes left, and I'm like, yeah. And so he comes in, and he looks at my picture, and he's like, no, you did this wrong. And I'm like, oh, but my picture's not my answer. Read the paragraph. And so I'm like, yeah. And then he reads the paragraph, and he's like, you did it wrong. And I'm like, so I've got 2 minutes left, so it's still enough time for me to figure it out. So, I flip over to my sheet and I start doing it on the back, and then I press the buzzer, and it's like 45 seconds. And I'm like, okay. And so he looks at it, and he's like looking at it, you did it wrong. And I'm like, oh. And so I've got like 45 seconds. I press it, and I'm like, nah, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And then I got it. And then I give it to him, and he's like, okay, now you did it right. All right, so the last part of the study was like, here are 16 short stories. You have to read them all. Pay special attention to the characters and the concepts. And I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing here. You're going to quiz me on the stories later, and I'm going to have to remember them. And I'm like, I got this. I'm very good at remembering things. And so I do that. And comes the next thing, and it's like, here's another thing. And it's like, all right, this is it. And it's like, you're going to be given a story. And I'm like, what? And then you're going to have to read it and figure out which story you read before is similar to it. And I'm like, oh no, that's not what I thought was going to happen. And so I'm sitting there and I'm reading these stories, and I'm taking like, okay, this story matches this story, and this one kind of seems like this one, and then it's like, what is this story talking about? Nothing matches this. And so I was doing that, and then I finished it, gave it to the guy, and I'm like, here, I don't, just yes. And he's like, okay. And I was just like, thanks. And I left, and I was like, that did not go as well as I thought it would. I thought I would be so much smarter, and I was just like, oh.